The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
The Full Melt.
Are you high?
There it was. It's the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Coming to you from somewhere in suburban Detroit. Live from the PetPain.com studios, it is the Full Melt Show. Oh, boy. I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. I suppose that's why we do a talk show. Incidentally, if anything you want to talk about tonight about cannabis, marijuana, hemp, 844-420-TALK is the toll-free national line you can call. Several studio lines ready to ring in. Look, some stuff's been happening recently in the news. Excuse me while I grab this because I gotta reach over and grab this crazy thing. It always seems by the time I'm ready to do the show that all batteries are dead. They're working on it all day. All batteries dead. Just seems like that's how it goes. But I've been saying for quite some time now that there is considerable pressure being placed on the legislatures across the nation in separate states that is really designed, pushed by ballot proposals, ballot initiatives revolving around both medical and retail cannabis, or what people would call legalizing marijuana in various and sundry forms. And they are various and they are sundry. I'm not just using those words, facetiously. They are a lot of different pieces of legislation. And when citizens do petition drives, remember, this is how this has been done. I can't think of a single state, save a couple that are just doing oil proposals, very minimalized, very scant allowance for medical marijuana. It's still nearly non-existent. Just a shade of some legalization. No access for a lot of these people through any channels yet, especially yet. But most of these states have all done this business through ballot drives because the legislatures have always been on the, we don't want to look, soft on crime. We got to get elected again. If we're soft on crime, one of our opponents is going to beat us over the head with that next election cycle. We'll never get back into office. So legislatures really, in all states, really touchy about approaching this situation. Now, that has waned in recent days as more states have jumped on. When this first started out with California, it was the, beaming, chiming example. Beaming? I meant beaming. Beaming. I need to do vocal stretches before I get on the air. Stretch all that stuff out. That shining example out in California turned into many later on. Look, they saw it could get done, and Colorado followed suit in quick order, didn't they? And then surpassed California with its legalization drive in 2012, which eventually turned into retail cannabis in 2014. It's been over a year now. I would say that the experiment in Colorado is still underway, but many of the results that people were looking for are in. Some of them published by Time Magazine yesterday saying, look, huge, we're looking at over 1 million kids across the nation over a long period of time from 2009 to, I believe, if memory serves, 2013, that all these states that have legalized medical marijuana or even retail cannabis, none of the, well, I guess retail cannabis wouldn't fall into it because it didn't come into play until 2014. But all these states that have done legal marijuana, people like Kevin Sabet and other paid activist spokespeople against marijuana, still part of the prohibitionist crowd. Watch out for the kids. They published this thing yesterday saying, look, remember all that ballyhoo about, the kids are going to have more access to weed now because you've passed this medical marijuana law. More people are going to have it. More people are going to have it legitimately, and kids are ultimately going to get their little grimy hands on it and go smoke pot and get high in the corner. And this has just not panned out to be truthful when you look at the statistics that have resulted. So I think when you start looking at these legislatures and the pressure that's being put on them by the ballot drives, and then additional pressure being put on the prohibitionist crowd that are against these initiatives, by articles like this from Time Magazine that say, look, all you people who are saying boo on marijuana, watch out for the kids. This isn't working out the way you said it would. And so that's even more pressure because now the voice of opposition to legalizing either medical marijuana or retail cannabis, as it were, has been minimalized, hasn't it? I mean, you shot an arrow through its heart. Anytime you look, and I'll just say this clearly: statistics and polls can be skewed. You can't just look at a poll on its face and understand it for what it means. This is why this is part of the reason, and only part of the reason, why there's why they call it an error rate. It's, look, you only interviewed 600 people. You only polled 600 people. How could there be an error rate? Well, they calculate the error rate based on a couple of things. And so I guess the point that I'm ultimately driving at is that statistics are a game. You have to understand that when, let's say you're a company and you're making a new candy wrapping machine, right? And you need something to show that your candy wrapping machine, and I'm just making this up as we go, but I'm just trying to make an analogy here. Your candy wrapping machine does a much better job of producing a profit for companies who use it than other manufacturers of packaging candy. And so you would then go out and have, especially if you were, I don't know, maybe this wouldn't apply. Maybe this is a really bad example, but it does draw the analogy. You would maybe go out and conduct a poll, have a polling company do a poll about of these companies, of these people that manufacture candy, because I imagine there's got to be hundreds and thousands of them across the world, of the manufacturers of candy that have used both machines, that the machine that they prefer based on profitability is your machine. I suppose there's other ways you could come up with those statistics. That's why it's probably a bad example. But in the analogy, it's still the same. You're looking for the polling data to back up what your industrial need is. So you go out and you seek that poll to be conducted. And therefore, you've verified with some science, so to speak, at least that's how it appears on the outside, you've given some scientific credibility to your plight, your plea, your claim. And so a lot of these polls, you have to look at who's doing the polling, who's asking the questions. None of these polls are done for free. Not a single one. They all cost money, and a lot of it. Depends on who you do, how many you sample, how long it is, how many questions are asked, and probably depends on what the kind of result you're looking for is. Because you would base what your result is, you would base the questions that you would ask around the results you're trying to get. And it's easy to get somebody to say something that sounds like they're really behind one thing when they're behind another based on the way that you ask the question. And this is part of this error rate when you're looking at polls. And I hate to sound like I'm doing a statistician class, because I'm not. And I'm hardly a statistician. But I do know from being a newser that in order to when I say newser, a news reporting guy, a guy that's done this for a long time, hanging out with the organizations that are trying to get their news on the air. And there are a lot of them. They use the polling method to back their claims. And so this pressure on legislatures which has been ramping up, has resulted in a number of states doing either the oil-only thing in conservative places. You've even got states like Georgia doing this, Louisiana, Florida. I mean, these are Bible Belt states and conservative states in all generality. Because what they've seen, the writing on the wall, they've seen what's going on across the country. If legislators don't act, the people do it for them. I mean, we did elect them to represent our favor and write and craft laws about public policy that benefit the people that they represent. But on this question specifically, and on many others, unfortunately, due to corruption and money influence from special interest, and really the special interest is just a veil for the term big business, because that's what special interest represents, is big business. Skewing what really is beneficial to the public to their own favor, or it's beneficial to the business. If you can't connect the dots in a courtroom, and I don't know why they can't, about the corruption happening in the United States of America in the political process, I don't know what lawyer would be worth his salt if he can't prove that there is public corruption happening based on the influence that money has had on these political cycles. Ultimately, these legislators, oh, good Lord, who is doing that? I don't even know. Let's just see. I'm going to do this. Who's calling? I tell you what, I'm going to put him on the air. I know who this guy is, and I don't even know if we got time to sneak him in, but I'm going to try. Hold up. We're going to try and put him on. Oops. Stupid phone. Okay, here we go. I don't know how long this is going to last, or if he's going to... Oh, did I miss the call? I clearly did. Damn it! He may try and call back. If he does, I'm putting him on. He's a secret guest. I can tell you that this person did not know that I was on the air based on the place that they're situated. And this is why I came in as a calling. Who is this? Because it doesn't say. But I know who it was based on the way the phone went when I answered it. So, and I don't know why it dropped, but it did. Something happened where that call dropped. If he calls back, I'm going to put him on the air. It's a secret caller. A point about the legislatures. This business about the public pressure, the legislatures are now reacting, even in places like Michigan, where they have medical marijuana. Talking about retail cannabis now. The legislature is doing stuff. Where did that movement come from? We'll talk about that in more detail coming up next on The Full Melt Show. Don't you go away.
You're getting the full melt.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Get the beach bong ready for sunshine and sandy beaches in McGrill, Jamaica this November as the High Times Cannabis Cup moves from Amsterdam to the Caribbean. Your trip starts with the absolute best rates on airfare, hotel, events, and all your Cannabis Cup travel needs at travelcannabiscup.com. Come stay with us, relax in the sun, play in the sand, and smoke down with the cool people, man. Get to the High Times Jamaica Cannabis Cup. Best travel prices right now at travelcannabiscup.com.
This summer, discover the one place where your family will create unforgettable memories. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Rated PG-13.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
No, honey, I'm good. I can have another, but I probably should not. I got somebody at home. It's been a long night here.
Hey, if you haven't noticed, right there on the Full Melt page, a place where you can click to our iTunes location. We have an iTunes place. It's really easy to subscribe to the program via iTunes. Click the link, click the subscribe feed, and you're all set to go. Rocking and rolling right there. I've been working on this thing with the legislature here in Michigan for a while. I mean, back when the Michigan legislature first had to start responding to the initiative we passed way back in 2008, it seems forever ago now. I was invited to be part of the work group there. It was when the Democrats still had control of the legislature. So there was a Democratic work group put together by Representative Fred Durall. Fred Durall Jr. Had really some headway on this. And so it's from that long ago stance, so many years ago, looking back in hindsight over the development of this issue in Michigan, that I stand here now. Hang on a second, because I've been trying to get this guy on the phone for a minute, and I'm going to see if I can get him now because he just responded back. So I'm going to do some on-air texting. I'm just going to let the thing tick so you can hear it while I'm doing it. The answer is yes. Jamie Lowell, our friend from Third Coast Compassion. I think it's they've changed their name a little bit now. It's more texting. Yes, I want you right now. We're on the, Jamie, when we're on the air. How can you not know when we're not on the air? So he just got the message. Hopefully he'll be calling here in a second. I'll give him the number again. 844-420-TALK, which is 8255 for those of you who don't know. That is the guest caller line. That's the caller line where you can call into. Normally, when I'd have Jamie on, I'd get him on in advance, and I'd put him up on the Canalock.com No Smell Bags phone line, the celebrity guest phone line. And that's a separate line. It's not a published line. We don't publish that line. So I'm assuming this is probably him calling now. You see how it's weird?
Working a couple times. Yeah.
Jamie, you're on the air. Are you there?
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
I'm okay. Listen, I think it's amazing and funny now how you can make a Facebook post or type some text into a little device and generate phone calls into a radio show. It's just weird.
That's awesome.
Listen, let me finish telling the story. I was leading up to the story about this business about pressure on legislatures from ballot petition forces. Would you agree with me that in many states across the country there has been pressure put on legislatures to do their damn jobs and craft legislation that supports people's positions, the citizenry of their state or of their nation? To do something legislatively before we get our acts together and assemble and put some money behind us and do it in your stead and shame you publicly for it. Yes? No?
I say yes. You're directing that as a question toward me, but
yes.
There's only a few states, I think there's 17, that are able to have the initiative process and to be able to use that as some leverage when they're talking to their lawmakers. And I think there is that effect here in Michigan.
The reason that I brought this subject up today on the show was because, one of our friends in the community, Christine Landino, she used to be with Normal, didn't she? Used to be a Normal director, board member?
Longtime board member. She was the glue that held that organization together, as far as I could tell, for a while. She recently retired. She's still very active, though. And by the way, now that we've mentioned Christine's name, I've got to bring this subject up because it's finally coming to fruition. Back about a year and a half, just 2 years ago now. It was 2 years ago, in fact, I think this month. Do you remember? Oh, you weren't part of that group, were you? We came out. Yes, you were. We came out to the Ohm of Medicine, and we did a filming session Yes.
Rick Thompson, myself, you, I believe, Mark Casarini out there, and then also Christine Landino showed up. And
she did a great interview.
Yeah, there was a guy that was doing it. Well, this is what I'm drawing the attention to about this particular point because it stands out in my head. I felt bad at the time. So this guy's doing a documentary on the $2 bill, right?
Right.
And so our focus, our goal is to get our little slice of Americana. We were pushing at the time and still do apparently but I think that's lost some. I think the person driving that effort has kind of fallen out of it for a minute. The $2 bill campaign, where we're asking the people in our community for the whole month of, I think we were doing it in June last year and the year before. The whole month of June, spend all your dollars in twos. And when people ask you why you're giving them twos and change, why so many? What's up with the twos? And you tell them the story about we're promoting the idea of safe access, this kind of thing. And so we were doing that, and this we did an article about this with the Free Press, and I got my mug in the paper, and I had a big fan of twos, and it went viral. The AP or somebody picked it up. It went everywhere. People on Hawaii were picking it up, seeing this picture on the newsstands about this $2 bill campaign. So he made this documentary, and poor Christine, she's down there. All she can think about is marijuana, and the only way that we're going to get our marijuana story told in the $2 bill campaign is if we talked about how marijuana relates to the $2 bill and not about how we're getting legislative action in Michigan on the subject. And so all she talked about were things that I think we're not going to get her in the documentary, unfortunately, because I remember the frustration. I could see it in John's face, the guy that was putting the documentary together. But anyway... Now, the reason I brought that up, because we mentioned Christine, is because that documentary is nearly finished. Finally, Jamie.
Nice. I was looking forward to that. I hope I make the cut. I remember being asked, do I think the Founding Fathers would agree with what we're doing? And I said, absolutely. They were all about freedom. That was the point. We've gotten away from that.
Yes. I mean, the Founding Fathers were famous in their marijuana and hemp trades. It seemed.
And the idea that we would just want to free people to be able to exercise their pursuit of happiness. I think they would support that 100%.
So on the $2 bill documentary, shout out to John, who's almost finished with this. I think he's finished with actually constructing the film. It's in its final edit. It's finally the way he wants it to be. And it's a long, arduous process, that post-production process. But he's doing it the right way, and he's having it scored, and he's putting that music behind it. He's been working on that for a while. So now he's just adding the music that they already scored to this film, or scoring the music to the film as it's finally cut. And they're putting it together. It's going to be ready here in very short order. I would assume within the next 30 days that film will be releasable. I don't know where it's going to be shown at, but the moment I get word of it, I'm going to see if we're in it. I'm going to see if we can get a screening of it or a link to something, like a private viewing. Because, obviously he's want to get his investment back on making this film. He spent a lot of money traveling around the country over those twos. Anyways,
that'd be great.
Back to the subject about the legislature. It seems that the legislature in Michigan is now getting reactive pressure bounding back over the idea that there is some serious threats on their heels if they don't act and take this legalizing marijuana in Michigan subject to heart and standing behind, finally, once and for all, the Medical Marijuana Act and bolstering it and supporting it and using it as a shield as it was intended to be instead of a sword like lawmakers have wanted to do, or under pressure from the people like the Attorney General and the police departments across the state into doing something. And so there's this draft legislation that I think you're aware of. It's House Bill 4209. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And this is a draft number 5, I see. I don't know why I didn't see 1 through 4, but this is draft 5. Do you have some enlightenment about this?
They weren't being released that often because there was a lot of work group scenario going on, and they would come up with a current draft based on the results of the input from the stakeholders in those work groups. And there would be other changes that needed to happen, but they would have, up-to-the-date drafts. This draft 5 is a departure. Like, I have not been privy to all of them either. I just know that they've existed and heard some headlines from time to time and what changed from, version to version. This draft 5 is kind of a departure, and I'm not very fond of it. I know that there'll be continued discussions and possibilities of changing some things again. And I hope that happens for the better, because as it stands now, we've lost the original focus of what was called the Provisioning Centers Act, and changing things altogether. And
you're talking about what is it? 40? What is it? What's the Provisioning Centers Act? What's the House bill?
4209.
So 4209 has been modified and changed from its original provisioning.
It's a hijack. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to check it out, but you remember the original principles of some of the concepts behind the original introduction of.
Well, sure, it was basically
became the Provisioning Centers Act.
Let me just for the benefit of those who are not familiar with the Michigan version of what's been going on. We didn't mention anything about what the Attorney General would like to call pot shops or dispensaries or places of safe access where you could go into an establishment and find what you need and walk out with it. We didn't mention these in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. None of this was addressed specifically and intentionally, I believe, for fear that
the authors were concerned that with the reputation of dispensaries being heard about L.A. and so forth, that it would be too much of a negative and it may be difficult to pass.
Right.
In hindsight, they saw that, especially with all the support that it had, that they probably could have done it. But,
right. They were probably wrong.
Was done. They certainly never prohibited them. There's language in the law that made many of us, myself included, think, okay, we can make a central location and have people come in and do the stuff that this allows.
Right.
And we're still here doing it because we're lucky to be in a great area and being a little bit responsible about it.
Well, you also worked very hard with your local government to make sure that they were going to craft some ordinance and rules about this that you could abide by and that they'd be happy with and that would provide you with some local protection.
And we've been licensed every year ever since, and there's 6 other places in town, and there's been no problems in 5 years of operation. And we'd like to use this as an example. And this is an example of local option, the local town taking control and saying this is how we'll let this in, and this is how we're going to do it, and it works fine.
Right, and it works for the areas that have done this. Right, that's another. I think that's something that people never talk about in this battle in this state.
We try to bring it up, but it doesn't necessarily get utilized. Now, we also have brought the lawmakers to a lot of our places and demonstrated them, and even had local decision makers, people on council and so forth, to tell them, yeah, it's been fine in here. The former mayor of Montrose gave great testimony in the Senate when the bills were being considered in the last session.
I'm just saying it's nothing that the media has picked up on. Nobody in the media have I seen, save maybe myself and maybe you on the Planet Green Trees program, have said, look, this works in Flint. It works in Ann Arbor. It works in Ypsilanti. It works in Lansing. It works in the places where local government has said, no, we need to do this right and not drag our feet on this.
You're right. Very little coverage of that particular thing. And I want to say that's how we approached the dispensary legislation.
So again, drawing it back to, because I was trying to explain for people who are unfamiliar with this plight. So we put together this initiative. We started backing then Representative Calton, in earlier days, in earlier sessions.
Chiropractor, concerned about health care. He had patients come to him, people in his district. He researched, and he was open to understanding, that there was a real need, that we need to clarify how people can get their medicine.
And so this was a crack in the door of the naysayers, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And we worked our way into that.
The Attorney General's office was definitely against it, and some of the testimony even got to some of the people in his office, and they loosened up a little bit.
Right.
And it's been a struggle, but these people have been very, profoundly moving to some of the lawmakers who had no idea what's really going on.
Well, so some of the truth and the falsity have been separated by fact and are separated by exposure and mulling this over and kicking it around, and so they had the opportunity to be educated somewhat, and we got enough breadth to get this crafted into legislation that the good Representative Calton had put forth to try and address the situation of safe access not being allowed by the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act through his House bill, and so several sessions.
And originally very similar to what we just described. And so very simple process. The caregivers who are growing it may have more than what their directly connected patients may need. And so rather than hold on to a bunch of extra material, there are several patients
or throw it away
who don't have what they need. And so let's have a central location where that goes, and so it's available for those who need it. It was pretty simple.
Right.
Over time, other sessions, other work groups, discussions about it. Governor's office got involved. Then you start having some more state oversight. Yes, it's still like a local option thing, but we'll have a state board that will control a lot of the stuff. Okay, that's common. We'll look at that and add that in. And then, next thing you know, more things.
But wait. I just want to bring I just wanted to draw to people's attention that this bill was introduced in previous legislatures,
3 sessions ago.
Right. And each time it would get to the point where it looked like we could get some passage, and then it would just get just dropped.
Right. And the first time, the optimism wasn't as high. We knew it got introduced a little bit late. It was just getting felt out. There was only like 2 or 3 supporters on it.
Right, minimal support.
And that type of stuff. So it just kind of got introduced. We were hoping it would get further, but, understood that it didn't under those circumstances. Very hopeful for the next term. Things were going great for a while. That was, first one was 5580. Next one was 4271. That went the entire term, the last day, the last minutes. And hopes were crushed mainly by law enforcement, sheriff's association, and so forth. That's a different story, but that's common too, where they have a lot of pull and leverage over people, and they use it when they feel they need to. For some reason, the lawmakers allow them to dictate a lot of stuff. They're supposed to just enforce the laws that they make. But.
It absolutely infuriates me, Jamie, because it violates a central tenet of government, which is that separation of powers. The police who do the enforcement of laws have no interest, no valid interest, no legitimate interest other than, can we pull this off? What you guys are crafting, is this something that we can enforce or can't we enforce it? They should have no business saying what's safe and what's not. That's the job of the legislature to determine. And so to allow law enforcement to come in and start to have a legislative position, a legislative post where they can come in and they actually have a liaison, don't they? Somebody that comes into these things specifically with the intent of getting their will done legislatively. And that really, I think, is a violation of our separation of powers. I don't think it's a constitutional action, in my opinion.
Well, it results in something that's not the best policy for all citizens, and so it's not cool.
All right, hang on, Jamie. So we'll wrap up this bit about the description of the way things were. And now, what 4209, which is the same bill that we're talking about, just reincarnated, has been changed and kind of taken over, hijacked, if you were. We'll get back with that part of the discussion coming up next on the Full Melt Show. Jamie, thank you for calling in. Hang on 1 second. We'll be right back.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
It's not easy out there, but it can be easier. And when it comes to medical marijuana in Michigan and chronic pain management, Dr. Bob Townsend, renowned for his patient advocacy and deep understanding of how patients and medical marijuana certifications fit together, makes it his hallmark to educate and provide the best holistic treatment for your condition. His knowledgeable staff makes you feel warm and welcome, and Dr. Bob makes you feel well. With locations across the state in Cadillac and Gaylord, Kalamazoo, Marquette, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Saginaw, Traverse City, you can't beat the convenience and feeling you get knowing you have someone on your side that cares. Denali Healthcare is on the web at denalihealthcaremi.com. Get answers to your holistic health questions or schedule an appointment now by calling 989-339-4464. Chronic pain management and holistic health answers is what they do. It's all they do. DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get your certification and peace of mind now by making an appointment with Dr. Bob Townsend at 989-339-4464.
Get the beach bong ready for sunshine and sandy beaches in McGrill, Jamaica this November as the High Times Cannabis Cup moves from Amsterdam to the Caribbean. Your trip starts with the absolute best rates on airfare, hotel, events, and all your Cannabis Cup travel needs at travelcannabiscup.com. Come stay with us, relax in the sun, play in the sand, and smoke down with the cool people, man. Get to the High Times Jamaica Cannabis Cup. Best travel prices right now at travelcannabiscup.com.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. Back to the Canalock No Smell Bags, Canalock.com phone lines. Here is Jamie Lowell. Jamie, we're talking before the break about House Bill 4209.
Yeah.
And 4209 right now has really changed a lot, drastically, hasn't it, in the draft version that has been put forth we've seen today?
Let me quickly say that Robin Schneider and Kevin McKinney and Associates, lobbying, a top independent lobbying firm, have been doing most of the work in Lansing on behalf of the community, backed by the National Patients' Rights Association. There were other groups who came in from time to time and are still there in some cases, who brought in their own lobbyists and their own ideas, and that has kind of convoluted things. And we talk about all these changes and the time it takes and stuff.
Right.
The job that Robin and Kevin have done have been fantastic, particularly with all of these obstacles, and I really want to thank them a lot for keeping the true spirit of things alive for so long. Some things just get outside of your control when other interests come in, and this is what we have here. This is the big money interests, those people who want to have distributorships so that only a handful of people really can make the money. They don't want a level playing field. They want to control it. The alcohol system has failed. It's very familiar, and it already exists, and this is what they're trying to go to as a way to appease everybody. It's not good enough for us. We want to make the argument that what we have been doing already in the state is good, and we want to go back to some of the ways that the legislation was before they made these changes. And these changes in this Draft 5 include things like a tier system with a distributorship, with a weird, unnecessary, excessive delivery component with commercial vehicles, and all this other bullshit that's going to end up making only a few people some money and making costs for patients much higher unnecessarily. So hello, black market, hello, police raids, and all that other kind of stuff. We're not really solving many problems. We're just helping out a few people who don't care or don't know anything about cannabis.
Right, and letting them kind of mire the place with their stupidity or lack of knowledge.
Yep.
I was mentioning before you had joined us on the program how we look back at, we passed this in the same time we elected the president for the first time, President Obama. And in the work groups that followed, because the Michigan legislature was still controlled democratically then, there was a different work group involved. And back then, I remember meeting some of the main players then. I didn't know their names at the time, but Robin was amongst them. I thought, what a well-spoken person, what a great representative of the community that the legislature needs to hear her story because it's paramount. And I had my own story I wanted to tell there, which I did. All that got washed aside, but all I'm saying is at that point in time, because that was the beginning point, that was the first, what they would call work group surrounding the subject as they were trying to craft the rules around the law we had just passed.
Right.
And at that time, we were the only other players at that table save the legislature, weren't we?
Yeah, but we had a favorable legislature, but they were just on their way out.
Right.
Lame duck right before all the...
My point being, though, is that we were the only other ones at the table besides legislators that were, part of the work group.
Cannabis Patients United. Robin was a part of it at the time. I was with that organization at the time. Dave Brogren, Matt Abel, a lot of people who are now with other organizations and were active in other ways and things like that. We were there. We were lobbying. We had a lobbyist, Mary Lindeman, who stayed on with CPU. And, of course, CPU is still in existence, and they're still up there working on this stuff. And they have taken a turn from some previous stances to really help us out. and very happy about that. And those are good people who really care about patients, even though we may disagree on some things along the way.
But the opposition groups, the opposition groups and the alternative groups weren't present, and there's a lot of them now, aren't there?
There are, yeah. The original kind of like stakeholders consisted of, maybe the Townships Association, municipal leagues, state police, the lawmakers, many of us, and that was it. And we had some good discussions and worked some things out and came to some understanding of the language. But as I said, they were prepared. I've said it many times. I'm not sure if I said it tonight. We were the 12th state in. By the time it got here, they were prepared to really circumvent a lot of the things that have been successful in other states, California in particular. So they were prepared to. I mean, a lot of the stuff was just futile exercises, unfortunately, as we look back. This
particular version of 4209, which it doesn't even seem like it resembles whatsoever the initial.
The application process is another thing in there that's absolutely out of whack. They're getting so deep as to say, has a person had bankruptcy? Has a person ever been charged? Not prosecuted, not for necessarily a felony.
Has anybody ever accused you? Have you ever had a booger on your face? Did you ever fart?
Somebody looked at you weird. Oh, hey, you're denied. This is only for us. Sorry. It's ridiculous. And I know that there will be work groups. I know that people are pissed, NPRA in particular, and they will be there representing the community, telling them they have to change all that shit. But how much does big money influence things? There's a guy who people are talking about who may be involved in that MRC, which kind of mirrors the stuff going on in Ohio with limited numbers of commercial production facilities and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Who seems to be involved, and the system that they seem to be trying to implement is similar to what they're talking about doing for a legalization effort. So maybe there's some crossover there. There's certainly crossover in systems, in the tiered system, and some other ideas that they've had. We don't know their language yet. They haven't released it. We get bits and pieces of ideas sometimes from Tim Beck because he's involved with them. That's about it, though. So when it comes out, we'll have to see. I know that they're moved by the fact that there was, a swift and harsh response to their ideas of trying to eliminate the MMMA and things like that. So
right,
maybe they've come off of that, and we'll see something somewhat sensible from them. But the reality is, as long as we have other options, we've got to keep on fighting for them. And if we keep on fighting as hard as we can and another one of these groups win out, we'll have to work with what we have and try to make it better from there. But I think that we're on that cusp where the mainstream can look at this stuff and see the same bullshit that we're looking at.
What's this?
And, we might have some chance there with some better policy than what they're offering. Even though they are going into a legalization direction, they still want to do it in a way where they control it, which is uncool.
There's this. There's part 3 of this draft of 4209 now creates a medical marijuana licensing board, and in that board it says it's going to consist of 5 members. That can be no more than 3 of them can be of the same political party, and the governor shall appoint these members. Is there something wrong with that?
Yeah, there is. It's more unnecessary control to the legislature that has proven itself to be inept. Even though the governor, the executive branch, gets to be involved in this, that's an unnecessary, excessive step. That's another place in which the executive branch can now say, you're not good enough, you're not qualified enough. Somebody looked at you weird once, like we said before, or something like that. Just all these things are going to equal difficult times in getting anything moving and increase the cost for those participating in it. And none of it makes any sense. We've been giving them good information for 5 years.
Well, and not only that,
would be listening to it, we wouldn't be in the situation. This all has to do with money, obviously. Logic and things like that cannot be applied, or else we'll really frustrate ourselves.
Well, also this business that the state has really no control over what the initial Medical Marijuana Act said whatsoever. I mean, they didn't have any control over it. And so this is their way to insert that influence and control, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and I think 2012 was as well, when there were changes to the act that
the
were
Walsh,
designed
the Walsh bills, so to speak,
to clarify things. But all they did was make further restrictions and things more difficult for patients and caregivers, and allow the ability for prosecutors who don't like this to start poking holes in the doctor-patient relationship and removing people's protections and defenses.
Right. Because that's all what it comes down to. Much of the battle in crafting the MI Legalized campaign, which Jamie is also a board member on and active with, just for full disclosure and consideration, it was this issue that we're talking about here, isn't it? This decentralizing and allowing local options, but letting the local government control that issue completely. Why the insertion? This already works.
Right.
Why the insertion of the control at the state level? See, it just seems like a grab for power from the executive branch.
Absolutely.
It also wouldn't...
A misunderstanding of cannabis in some ways. I mean, you have to understand it. These guys probably still view it as somehow potentially a danger to public health and safety and feel as though there needs to be these strict controls and all that kind of crap. I'm sure there's some level of that involved. I mean, not to think that there's pure deviousness. There's misinformation, too, at large.
Right. But all in all, this not only the licensing board has issues, but then it goes on to talk about other stuff that's bad, isn't it? A lot of this is very bad now.
Okay, so now caregivers can still be involved, but guess what? They have to send their overages, or whatever you want to call the part of their harvest that they want to sell at the market, to these distributors. And to get it to these distributors, these particular commercial delivery cars must be used. And so if you're a caregiver and you're at your house, you want your overages to go to the store, they come by and into your neighborhood and drive up in your driveway in an armored car and take away any kind of conspicuousness that you might have had. And so, yes, you can be involved, but how many people want to under those circumstances? And you don't have control of where it goes. You got to pick that place and send it to that place.
Jamie, I really appreciate your calling about this subject. I wanted to talk in a minute, and you can stay on the phone if you want. When we come back from the break, talking about new control in Colorado being lifted over public consumption of cannabis in Denver. Did you see that story? If you didn't see it, hang on. We'll be right back after the break, and we'll talk about what they're doing in Denver for public consumption next on the program.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
This summer, discover the one place where your family will create unforgettable memories. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Rated PG-13.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. We're talking today about how legislature has been changing marijuana law in response to pressure from potential ballot petitions. With us on the phone from the Third Coast Compassion Center out in Ypsilanti. Jamie, you guys changed your name out there, didn't you? Okay, hang on. I got to wait for the music to drop. This is a slightly longer than normal music intro. So you guys changed your name at the Third Coast, didn't you? A little bit.
Yeah, we used to be Third Coast with a 3. Now we spell it out, and instead of Compassion Center, it's Medical Marijuana Dispensary, mimicking what it actually says on the license that we get from our city and what other establishments call themselves around here. So
your official name is now?
Third Coast Medical Marijuana Dispensary.
There you go. I like it. I'm gonna screw it up though because I'm so used to saying Compassion Center.
I still do, and it still is, and so that's not screwing it up. That's fine.
Well, people know it either way, I guess, now.
That's true.
Unfortunately, I live in the days of old school radio where if you said another station's call letters while you were on the air because you also did a weekend gig over there, boy, you'd get fired real quick for that. We used to do the same thing because it's hard to keep them separate because you're used to cracking that mic and you'll lean into it and go, wait a minute, where am I? Which station?
Right.
I've done it with this show before, too, because this show's had 2 different names. There used to be the Medical Marijuana Radio Show and then the Political Twist-Up Show when we were weekend shows on the regular radio here. When we went all online all the time, I guess, weekly, or daily, I mean, we changed it to the Full Melt with a cool new logo, T-shirts included. I still occasionally will crack the mic and go, welcome back to the political. Wait, wait a minute. What are we doing? Which show? Oh, yeah, this show. It can be embarrassing. Anyway, so we've only got a few minutes left on the program. Just to wrap, on the heels of this change, this corporate takeover, if you will, because that's what I see it as,
sure.
Of House Bill 40, what was, 4271, now 4209. Is there reason on the horizon to see something rise to the level of a legalization offer in a different House bill? Because of the same pressure, because of MI Legalize and these other groups.
Yeah, well, Rep. Irwin is going to offer a legalization bill. That being said, I'm pretty sure that it's not going to go really anywhere. I think that maybe if legalization happens, somebody like the MRC will get the signatures and submit them to the legislature. Legislature will take their 40 days that they have and decide, hey, this is not such a bad idea. And presumably, let's say 4209 has passed under this bullshit version that it's under now. And we already have this infrastructure in place, so yeah, this all works out together. Something like that could happen to the legislature, no problem.
I like the way you put that. Hey, this is
be counting on that for all we know.
I like the way that you put that. Hey, this isn't so bad after all. This idea.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find this business. I think this was reported in the Cannabis today. Just for credit to the journalist, Ricardo Baca from the Cannabis staff. The Cannabis is a blog. Are they considered a blog or are they considered a legitimate news publication? I don't know. I think they can
be one and the same. I think blogs are now becoming legitimate news sources for people.
I know when you look them up on Google, like if you Google something news, like say Fireman News, you'll get all kinds of regular traditional news publications coming up in the listing, and then the blogs always are listed in parentheses by Google underneath it as blog, parenthetically referenced. Which tells me that they're still trying to discern between what is really an opinion-based publication by somebody who has no journalism credentials and somebody who's a traditional journalist who has, journalistic ethics and has been trained accordingly, which is, sure, what my background is.
Well, and some of those guys blog and some of the others are journalists, and, I think the line is becoming a little bit blurred now.
It is. I think it's important for people to pay attention because it's easy. I was just saying the other day, and I mentioned this on the radio yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to flush it out. It was one of those facts that I started to bring up and then I never finished out. This idea that you saw that DARE was recently fooled by a satire site. The DARE website, dare.org, drug abuse resistance education. This organization's been around since, what, the early 80s? funded by the Family Council and other, those kind of organizations. So they had, there was, people, these satire sites put up blatantly false stuff about things just to rile people, and then they realize that it's a satire site. It happens all the time on Facebook. And
so, a dude from FIFA, from Trinidad, was getting on TV with one of those fake from The Onion, and he was going off about it.
And so the same thing happened. I noticed there was the Wisconsin. There was some kind of Wisconsin.com publication that talks about agriculture, like WisconsinAg.com or something like that, and they had posted the fake story about Monsanto's GMO marijuana. And so I clicked on it because I was clickbait, and I actually fell for the clickbait. I'm like, really? Monsanto finally really did it? And then I clicked on it, and it's like, this story is not available. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's that stupid satire story. They got fooled, and they did the same thing that Dare did. They put up something that wasn't true. And again, it points to this difference between what is a news organization, because a news organization would never, ever in a billion years do that. They've got checks and balances in place to keep that kind of crap from ever happening. It sours your reputation forever. Heck, Brian Williams starts to inflate things a little bit with you. I was in the plane when they were shooting at it. And it's like, no, you were in a plane 2 hours later that was way behind, and they didn't shoot at you, and you just reported about it.
Hillary Clinton did a similar thing a couple of years ago, too, talking about how she was getting out of somewhere, and there was fire near her, like gunfire near her and stuff like that, and it turns out that was all bullshit. People do that.
But what I'm saying is it's important to pay attention to the source of the information you're absorbing on the internet, because if you don't look, it can easily be fooled. It happens to the best of us, including professionals. The same activists, according to the cannabis, who in 2012 successfully legalized the cultivation, sale, and use of recreational marijuana in Colorado, are starting their next big initiative today: the push for regulated public pot consumption in the state's largest city. Did you see this story, Jamie, at all?
Yes, I'm not as familiar with it to have a deep discussion on it.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm
aware of it. I see most of the news. Yep.
I'm reading it to you now. The activists' expansive proposal, which will be discussed with a Denver assistant city attorney this afternoon, aims to redefine public places to create an environment for the public consumption of cannabis that cannabis has learned. Consumption in public is something that is currently prohibited nearly everywhere in Denver, inspiring public versus private debates between industry and government officials that have ultimately led to the raids and closures of several cannabis clubs operating in the city's fringes. What's most noteworthy about the activists' proposal, Mason Tybert and Brian Vincente are pushing forward an initiative that is significantly more liberal and wide-reaching than previous ideas involving cannabis-only clubs floated by State Rep. Jonathan Singer, Democrat from Longmont, and others. And that's
Mason is the man. If he's involved, it's good.
We're proposing a narrow exemption to Denver's current ban on social cannabis use by adults, said Tybert, the Denver-based communications director for the Marijuana Policy Project. It would simply allow adults 21 and older to consume marijuana in designated areas and venues where only adults are allowed. Makes perfect sense to me. This is allowing adults to have the option to use marijuana in certain venues that choose to allow it. Instead of this, that's a quote from Mason Tybert. Instead of limiting marijuana use to cannabis clubs that would operate separately from bars serving alcohol, a model championed by some already in places in cities like Toronto, this new proposal allows existing bars, clubs, and venues to dedicate 21 and older spaces to indoor vaporizing and outdoor out-of-public site smoking, Tybert said. It'd be up to the venues to decide if they want to allow it, Tybert said. It's a venue. If it's a venue that allows people 21 years of age, it would need to ensure that marijuana is only being consumed in areas that are accessible to those 21 and older, and not in sight of the public, and not in the sight of the other patrons either. It'll also conform to the state's ban on smoking indoors. In Tybert and Attorney Vincente's proposal to the city of Denver, titled the Limited Social Marijuana Consumption Initiative, they spell out the suggested rules addressed above. An open to the public hearing for the proposed ordinance will take place at 4:15 p.m. today, so it already took place, at the city and county building with the assistant city attorney, the legalization activists, and a few others. Denver marijuana czar Ashley Kilroy said the city doesn't regularly take a position on proposed ordinances, but that the issue of public consumption has been on our agenda, quote unquote. The conversation around consuming marijuana in commercial establishments, those conversations have already begun with community members, industry representatives, business leaders, and business groups, said Kilroy, Denver's executive director of marijuana policy. They raised the same types of questions we've been asking about this. Do the people of Denver want to consume marijuana in a commercial business? I think the answer is yes. There was only a couple of sentences left in the article, but we've run out of time. Up against the clock, Jamie. Where can we find you on Planet Green Trees? You got something going on tomorrow, real quick?
Planet Green Trees. I can't hear you that well.
Oh, that's okay.
Planet Green Trees.
Planet Green Trees Radio on Blog Talk tomorrow with Jamie, Michael Camorn, and others.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.